have with us Rosa to talk about the importance of the 2018 midterm elections.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, tell us why we should be paying attention tonight. What is at stake?
Well, let's start with the control of Congress. It matters which party has a majority in the House and in the Senate. In the House, the majority party gets to pick the Speaker of the House. The Speaker has tremendous power both formally and informally. The Speaker sets the agenda, controls the rules, committee through appointments, calls on members to speak, refers bills to committee, rules on points of order, and when the media needs a spokesperson for Congress, they turn to the Speaker of the House.
Isn't the Speaker the most powerful member of Congress?
Yes, but that's not all. The majority party gets a majority of seats on every single committee. And the majority party gets to pick the chair of every single committee. And most of the work in Congress is done in committee. So if you're not in the majority party, you'll have a hard time getting your legislation through.
What about the Senate?
The majority party actually has to work more with the minority party in the Senate because of the filibuster. When you want to get legislation through, the Senate is not enough to just have a simple majority of the votes. You have to make sure that there is no senator so upset that they might filibuster or talk a bill to death. They got rid of the filibuster for judicial appointments, or you probably would have seen the filibuster over Kavanaugh's confirmation. It took over 60 votes to stop a filibuster, and so just having a simple majority in the Senate is not always enough.
Hope you have plenty of coffee for that filibuster. Speaking of. So how do things look for a Democratic takeover of the House tonight?
Well, on the House side, Democrats need to pick up 23 seats. There are 38 House Republican seats that are toss-up seats or worse. Another 27 GOP seats lean Republican, and 41 GOP-held seats have no incumbent running, in part because there were 23 retirements. So Democrats are competing for the largest number of open GOP seats since 1930. In contrast, only 3 Democrat seats are up in toss-up races.
How about the Senate?
Democrats have less opportunity in the Senate. They need to protect all of their incumbents plus pick up 2 new seats. This will be hard to do because only 1/3 of the Senate is up for re-election, so only 35 seats are in play. Of these, only 9 are held by Republicans. The rest are held by Democrats, and some are vulnerable because 10 are in states that voted for Trump in 2016. And 5 of them are in super deep red states. So it will be a tough battle tonight for Democrats to win the Senate.
How about the governors running tonight? What's at stake there?
We're getting ready for the 2020 census, so it really matters which political party controls the state for the next round of redistricting. There are 36 governors being elected tonight. 26 are in the GOP states, 9 are being Democratic states, and 1 is an independent state. More than a third of the contest tonight have no incumbent running. Democrats are likely to gain enough seats tonight.
Finally, isn't tonight's race also important for women? Aren't they even calling this another Year of the Woman?
Yes, you're super right on that. Like 1992, record numbers of women are running. 476 women ran for the United States House this year. That beats a previous record of 298.
Wow.
251 made it to the ballot today, actually. 53 women ran for the state, beating a previous record of 40, and 26 are still running. And then governor-wise, 61 women filed for governor, beating an old record of 34, and 18 are still running, including the first African-American woman to run as a governor for a major political party.
Wow.
But it is also being called the Year of the Woman because there is a gender gap in support for Trump. Women are much less likely to approve the job Trump as president than men. We will have a lot to analyze after the election to sort through exactly which subgroups of women make the difference tonight.
Well, if there's one thing we learned from the last Year of the Woman, not all women vote the same way.
We'll definitely see if tonight's a pink wave or not.
Thank you for joining us tonight, Rosa.
Thank you for having me.
Hi, my name is Kylie Stoudemire, and today I'm going to be interviewing Chief Davis in order to gain some of his thoughts on this year's congressional campaign. So, shall we get started?
I'm ready and willing.
First off, I would like to thank you for volunteering your time
You're welcome.
to be interviewed for this year's election live broadcast. It truly is a year to be engaged, am I right?
It is.
Well, with that being said, do you think this year is going to to present a blue wave within the election, or perhaps are the Democrats overconfident?
I think they're overconfident.
Okay, with that being said, what do you feel the Democrats need to do in order to step up their game, per se?
They need to start working on the government business and quit trying to attack everything that goes up in Washington.
That then leads me to ask, how do you feel about this year's Republicans campaign in an overall sense?
I think it's been a little bit weak. I haven't heard a whole lot of them. Most of it's been coming from the Democrat side.
Do you feel that Trump is perhaps the reason for this?
Do I think they're riding a Trump wave? If that's what you're asking? It's possible.
Okay, with that being said, how do you feel Trump has done in terms of reforming and bringing attention to the issues within the criminal justice system?
I think he's done a lot because we're a nation of laws. And having spent 37 years in that career, it's important to me. And we need to get back to the law, the letter of the law. And if we don't like the law, then it needs to be changed by Congress.
Absolutely. What are some issues that he should bring to the table?
For criminal justice,
Absolutely.
I think we need to look at criminal justice reform. And I think we need to look at the number of people who've got in jail and what they're in jail for, and work to find some relief to make the inmates there more acceptable to the community when they come out and better able to find work.
Absolutely. With that being said, let's move forward and discuss this year in terms of being the year of the woman. Do you agree or disagree?
Well, I think it is Year of the Woman. If you look how many people Trump has appointed to cabinet positions and in other departments within the government, I think he's done a lot.
Do you feel this is a positive or a negative?
I think it's a positive thing.
Absolutely. That is a great point. And lastly, how do you feel about this year's congressional campaign overall?
I think it's terrible. It's embarrassing. I hate to see the government the politicians doing what they're doing to each other, both sides of the aisle. And it's embarrassing to me, and I'm sure it's embarrassing to the country with other countries watching this.
How do you feel this will influence the election in 2020?
Well, if the negativity continues, I think it's in anybody's court.
I agree. And lastly, what are you looking forward to in the 2020 election?
I'd like to see us continue government reform and get rid of the dead wooden government, which we haven't been able to do, and I don't want to use a cliche, make America first, but I think it's time that we look at what we've done for other countries at the expense of our own country. And I think we need to change that. And that's not any party. That goes back many, many presidents.
I completely agree. Again, thank you for your participation. I truly enjoyed speaking with you, and I hope that you are able to make it to the polls this year.
I make it to every poll. It's my duty as a citizen, and I think of it as a responsible duty to inform myself of the facts before I go and vote.
Okay, so there we have it, an excellent interview with our very own Chief Davis here at Mary Baldwin University.
Thank you.
Here with Debbie, I'm going to ask you a few questions about the upcoming election. The first one is, should felons who have served their sentence be allowed to vote?
I think if they have served their sentence, they should be able to vote. Yeah.
Okay. Do you think U.S. territories should be allowed to have voting members in Congress?
Yes, I do.
Do you know anything about the pipeline that's proposed to go through Stanton?
Yes, I do.
Well, what do you think about it?
I think it could be very dangerous because Stanton has a lot of old natural gas lines, and I think that they could cause other problems. Explosions, that type of thing.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
This election cycle saw the highest expenditure of any midterm in the United States history, topping over $5 billion, as projected by the Center for Responsible Politics. Here with more is Emily. Emily, what do you think contributed to this historic amount?
Well, the 2018 midterms have been framed as one of the most important elections in our country's history. With severe divide and fiery rhetoric, both sides of the aisle have been hard at work turning out new voters and old, stressing the importance of this election to either continue or stymie the current administration's goals.
Do you see this election as a referendum on Trump?
Yes, look at how many voters skipped out on voting in 2016. Approximately 117 million people. That's 51% of our population. Many of these people are now looking to speak their mind on the current administration and recent policies, such as healthcare, immigration, tax cuts, and the Supreme Court.
But are they all registered? Registration is a barrier to voting, of course.
There has been a surge in newly registered votes. Some estimates say there are up to 800,000 new voters. This midterm is shaping up to have one of the biggest voter turnouts in history.
Wow. So who is putting more into this year's elections? Democrats or Republicans?
In terms of money, Democrats have outspent Republicans for the first time in 10 years. They have spent $2.5 billion in races across the country, compared to Republicans, who have spent $2.2 billion. This is nearly double what was spent in 2016 congressional campaigns.
Where exactly is all this money coming from, and can they pay off my student loans?
Well, no, but
Hi, I'm here with Isabel, and I'm going to ask you a few questions about the election. The first one is, how would you improve the diversity in Congress?
I would make it easier for people to run, like the common man to run for office, because it's definitely a money game currently. I'd just make it easier in that, but I wouldn't make it so you could only vote for people of color or LGBT or women. I would just make it so that it was easier for them to run, so they have a greater chance and can get voted on based on their talents or their beliefs.
Okay, and how much, if any, should Congress put into building the wall?
I don't think that we should build a wall to begin with. If it's a matter of security, then I would just up security. Building a wall is very impractical, very expensive, and us having to pay for it or making Mexico pay for it for whatever reason is illogical. It doesn't make much sense.
And do you believe the president should seek authorization from Congress before declaring war?
There should definitely be multiple barriers to one person declaring war. He or she should in no way have that power all to themselves. So going through Congress is a good way to make sure that war doesn't just happen at the drop of a hat.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
I'm Jay Cropper, riveting election live reporter, and I'm here tonight with Liam Hubbard, political mastermind. Thank you for joining us, Liam.
It's groovy to be here.
Liam is here to talk about voter turnout. We have seen the Democrats and the Republicans both trying to mobilize their voters in the past few months. What do you think voter turnout is going to look like this year, Liam?
Well, typically we do see a drop in voter turnout in midterm election years by a factor of about 12%. Presidential elections just tend to be more exciting to voters than midterms. But this year may be different.
I see. What makes voter turnout increase?
Well, people are more likely to vote naturally if they're interested in the election, if they think the outcome will make a difference, if the candidates are high quality, if they think their vote will matter, and of course if the media coverage is robust enough.
So it does look like the voters are interested this year?
Yes, particularly in the last several weeks, we've seen both Democrats and Republicans alike get very energized in the wake of those Kavanaugh hearings.
What about here on campus, though? Are Mary Baldwin students interested in voting?
Well, you'll be very happy to find out that Mary Baldwin students actually vote at a higher rate than the national average.
Oh, wow, that's great news. What percentage of students vote?
Well, the last midterm election year was in 2014, and 20.5 of Mary Baldwin students reported voting. 68.3 registered to vote, and of those registered, 30% voted.
But I thought you said those numbers were good.
Those numbers are exceptional. The national average for students voting on college campuses was only about 18.8%. And remember, 2014 was a midterm election. You would expect lower voter turnout naturally. And in general, younger voters are less likely to come out.
But did we do better in the 2016 presidential election?
Oh, absolutely. In 2016, the registration rate at Mary Baldwin was at 83.8%, and 61.2 voted. The national average that year was only around 50.4%.
Wow, that's a huge increase from 2014. What explains that?
Well, 2016 was a presidential election year, and naturally people were more interested in those elections. But on campus, there was a lot of visibility surrounding the election. We had debate parties, a class on campaigns and elections, and of course the election live broadcasts. There were several voter registration drives on campus this fall as well. Mary Baldwin is very committed to helping students register here in Stanton or at home, and to vote, either by absentee ballots or in person. I also hear they have buses to charter people to the polls, even though it's close enough to walk.
Well, we sure do plenty of walking here on this campus, don't we? And with each new freshman at Mary Baldwin, we always have new voters to register. Thank you, Liam, for joining me tonight and sharing this news. Keep up the good work.
Rock on.